Hello everyone, hope you all are enjoying the course. Today we will discuss about a new technique of meditation which is known as perception of psychic centers. You can also call it meditation on chakras. There are two ways to understand this meditation, the philosophical and the scientific. Before coming to the philosophical standpoint, we are trying to understand this particular meditation on the basis of scientific research, how science is working in this particular field, what is the findings of science regarding this kind of practice. We will see how science is talking at anatomy and physiological level about all these different centers, though they are not talking about chakras directly in their language. They are talking about the endocrine glands, or you can say neuroendocrine system, which is closely connected with the chakras. So let us see what science is saying regarding these particular centers of our body. Every living organism survives and functions because it is composed of a number of systems working together as a team. A system may be defined as a group of structures or organs which carry out an essential fundamental function by working together. Although to some extent each system works and can be considered on its own, the various systems are closely connected and are dependent on each other. Many of the activities are controlled by the nervous system, and one of the characteristics of this system is the rapidity of its response to various kinds of stimuli. There is, however, a second major system which exercises control over the body's activity. The organs of this second system are called the endocrines. Thus, the nervous system and the endocrine system are the two major controlling and coordinating systems of our body. They coordinate the work of other systems and through them control the functions of the body as a whole. Both are intimately associated with each other and together integrate the organism. The functional interlocking between both qualifies them to be regarded as constituting a single integrated system called neuroendocrine system. The endocrine glands communicate their orders through chemical regulators called hormones. A hormone may be defined as a chemical messenger secreted by the endocrine glands and are carried through the body by the bloodstream to its target cells in distant organs, which it is thereby able to influence. Some hormones, such as adrenaline, have an immediate action, others exercise their influence over many years. They not only participate in all bodily functions but exert profound influence on the mental states, emotions, and behavioral patterns of an individual also. They generate the powerful forces of passions and emotions in men. These in turn generate feelings and demand appropriate action that satisfies the need. Love, hate, fear, etc. are endocrine expressions. For a long time, it was believed that the brain was the source of energy and the seat of impulses of men. Significant progress in endocrinology, it is a branch of science dealing with endocrine system, in the recent years has established that the passions and emotions are expressions of the endocrine system. Endocrine system is the seat of habits formation in a person. They manifest themselves in the nervous system and become behavioral pattern. Thus, manifestation and behavior are the functions of the nervous system, but the birthplace, the production center of the habits is endocrine system. The same habits are then stored in the brain as memories It means the brain is only the repository of memories and ultimately become patterns of behavior. The word neuroendocrine system is very apt to describe the integration of both systems. The intimate reciprocal relationship between the two systems can be illustrated as the visual stimulus of the beauty of a pretty girl causes electric nerve impulses to activate the anterior pituitary of young male within the hypothalamus, that part of the brain which is attached to the pituitary by vascular and neural pathway as a probable intermediary. The pituitary in turn produces and delivers gonadotropic hormone to the sexual glands. The nerve and hormone signals make his heart beat faster, increase blood pressure, tense muscles, and cause sexual arousal. Unlike continuous anatomical structures of most of the other systems of the body, the glands of the endocrine system are scattered through the body like islands. The major endocrine gland may be arranged in 3 groups. In the first group, we can take the anterior pituitary. The second is the adrenal cortex, the thyroid gland, the sex glands or gonads. In the second group, we can keep the posterior pituitary, the adrenal medulla, the parathyroid, and next is islets of Langerhans. In the third group, there are 2 glands. One is pineal and other one is thymus. So we will learn about all these glands in some detail. We would see that the anterior pituitary controls the other members of the first group through the trophic hormones which it secretes. The glands of the second group are controlled by other stimuli, both chemical and neural. The third group is a unique independent group. All these glands are comparatively small, ductless, and have access to very rich vascular supply. They produce organic chemical compounds called hormones which reach their targets through bloodstream. They are effective in very small quantities. They regulate such important body processes as growth and development, sexual activity, pregnancy and birth and metabolism. A variety of trophic hormones secreted by the pituitary reach other glands via the bloodstream and stimulate each to secrete specific hormones in definite quantities. Through a feedback system of chemical intercommunication, pituitary regulates the hormone production of the other glands. Now we would see that there are all these different glands. They have their own particular functions and how they are playing their role inside the body. So the first gland is the pineal gland. This gland lies near the center of the brain. It is very small, not much larger than a grain of wheat. It is hidden away at the base of the brain in a tiny cave behind and above the pituitary gland. An important effect of the pineal secretion is to inhibit the gonads' activity until puberty, thus holding the sex during childhood. Later on, it aids in the maturing processes of sex after puberty. Some experimental evidence indicates that pineal hormones inhibit ACTH secretion and thus indirectly help to regulate the secretions of the adrenal gland via the hypothalamus and pituitary. The next gland is the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland is situated almost exactly in the center of the head, at the base of the brain and just behind the root of the nose. It hangs suspended from the underside of the brain in a little cup or cradle. It is about the size of a pea, about 1 centimeter in diameter. This gland has an anterior and a posterior part which have entirely different functions. Both are under the control of the hypothalamus, but by different mechanisms. The interior part is controlled by releasing and inhibiting factors which are secreted by the hypothalamus. It produces not less than 6 distinctly different hormones and is concerned with the multiplicity of the vital processes. No part of the body is exempt from its influence. It produces hormones which stimulate and regulate the activities of the thyroid, adrenal cortex, and sex glands. A neural mechanism between the hypothalamus and the posterior part controls the latter. The hormones released by the posterior part are produced in the adjoining hypothalamus. They are stored, possibly modified, and distributed by the gland as needed. Now the third gland, which is the very important gland and located in our throat, the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland is situated in the lower part of the neck. It consists of 2 masses, astride the upper end of the trachea as it is shown in the figure. The 2 parts are connected with a stripe of the same tissue just below the Adam's apple. The vascular supply to this gland is exceptionally rich. It means it receives 4 times as much blood as do the kidneys. Thyroxine is the main secretion of this gland, but is itself relatively inactive. The active hormone is triiodothyroxine, and by its action on cells, it regulates the basal metabolic rate and influences growth and maturation. Besides the large percentage of iodine which the gland traps from the blood, it also contains iron, arsenic, and phosphorus. It is the builder of the nerve and brain tissues. Thyroid gland is essentially an energy regulating organ, and its output controls the rate of metabolism or the speed of living. Also, it aids digestion, combats the poison in the body, gives balance to the brain, regulates protein, carbohydrate, and fat metabolism, and cures and prevents goiter. The fourth important gland is the parathyroid glands. The parathyroid glands are 4 minute ovate bodies, smaller than peas, embedded in the lobes of the thyroid glands. The hormone secreted by these glands is called parathormone, which is known as PTH. Its action sets the long-term blood calcium level, which is essential for the normal function of the cells, and decreases the phosphate concentration. The hormone is secreted in self-regulating feedback system independent of pituitary control. The fifth important gland is thymus gland. The thymus gland is situated in the chest between the 2 lungs, rests on the upper portion of the heart, and extends up to the neck. It grows rapidly during the first 2 or 3 years of the child's life, and it gradually disappears after the 20th year. Some secretion cells, however, remain throughout life. This gland is believed to control the physical growth of children up to the 14th year of age. During this time, it holds other glands, particularly the sex glands, in check and delays puberty and furthers normal brain development. The thymus is a lymphoid organ since it contains closely packed lymphocytes. Besides the function mentioned, the thymus exerts an influence on the lymphonodes, spleen, and other lymphatic tissues, so that they too gain gain the ability to produce lymphocytes and foster the development of immunocompetent cells, which are known as T cells, by means of a hormone. The next important gland is the adrenal gland. The adrenals are a pair of small, flattered, yellowish, three-cornered glands capping the upper end of the kidneys. Each adrenal is a double gland composed of a cortex, an outer layer, and a medulla, an inner layer, former making up the bulk of the gland. Each part has entirely separate function. Thus, amount of blood passing through the adrenals is very great compared to their size. More than 3 dozen hormones are produced by these glands. A number of these are essential to life. They stimulate the healthy growth of the brain and sex cells, developmental concentration, and physical endurance, and generate a vigorous muscular and nervous constitution. The profuse sympathetic nerve supply goes almost entirely to the medulla, and the functioning of the adrenal medulla is intimately linked with the sympathetic nerve action. Fear, pain, exposure to cold, low blood pressure, and emotional upsets stimulate the release of epinephrine, also called adrenaline, and norepinephrine hormones. These hormones are poured into the bloodstream during fear or anger, and they are responsible for many of the changes which accompany these emotions. Through repeated excitement, anger, fear, etc., the adrenal glands may be exhausted of their reserve supply of adrenaline hormones. Adrenal deficiency is characterized by indecision, a tendency to worry, and an inclination to weep for the slightest provocation. Now, the last gland, which is very important to know so far as our chakra meditation is concerned, and that is the gonads, the 6 glands. The main gonads of the female are ovaries, and in the male they are the testes. These organs function as potent endocrine glands, secreting hormones which makes a man a male and a woman feminine. These hormones have profound influence not only on the sexual activities but also a number of body organs and functions of an individual. Estrogen and progesterone are the 2 major sex hormones, which are in a large measure responsible for the characteristics that distinguish a woman from a man. The male sex hormones are androgen and testosterone. In both sexes, pituitary hormones play a profound role in controlling the functions of the 6 glands. So in this way, we have seen that how these glands are working inside body and what kind of hormones they are secreting, and those hormones are having some impact on our body functions. Now we would see in general that how endocrines are functioning in the body. So having dealt with physical function of the endocrine system, we shall now briefly discuss its action on the mental states and behavioral patterns of men. The nervous system and the endocrine system are the two major control systems of the body. The coordinating effects of the nervous system are transmitted nearly instantaneously by electrochemical impulses. The endocrine glands secrete chemical regulators, which are known as hormones, which are carried through the body by the bloodstream. The action of the latter is more slowly established but longer lasting than that of the former. While nerve action is measured in milliseconds, some hormones need several days to get started and then last for weeks, months, or even years. Nerve impulses control the function only of muscles and glands, while hormones may act on all the cells of the body. A serious study of the endocrines and their hormones commenced about the beginning of the century. It has now been known that besides the old method of chemical intercommunication between the two systems, another method by nerve action also exists. Lately, it has been realized that nervous and endocrine systems, both functioning to integrate the organism, are not as divergent as was formerly supposed. Many endocrine glands act on the nervous system through their hormones. On the other hand, endocrines are stimulated or inhibited by products of the nervous system. Within the central nervous system, there are groups of nerve cells which are capable of functioning as glands. The chemical messengers released by these neurosecretory cells are called neurohormones. These cells serve as a link between the central nervous system and the endocrine system. With the help of these dual cells acting as go-between, the central nervous system can control the functional activity of many endocrine glands and adjust their activity in accordance with the requirements of varying internal and external environments. Equally or more important is the reverse relationship by which the endocrine system can influence the central nervous system. This concept of the reciprocal interrelation of the two systems is now generally accepted. Recent studies on neurosecretions have no doubt that the nervous system has its own endocrine specialization for the release of hormones. The functional interlocking is so remarkable that nervous and endocrine elements are coming to be regarded as constituting a single integrated system called neuroendocrine system, which we have talked in very starting. As research depends our knowledge of coordinatory systems, it becomes increasingly apparent that their products participate not only in every bodily function but have profound influence upon the mental states and behavior of individuals. The neuroendocrine system is the seat of feelings, emotions, and passions of men. Impulses and urges, which are the forerunners of emotions and passions, not only generate feelings but also command appropriate action that satisfy the need. Animals just act out instinctive rituals of eating, courtship, and fighting because they do not possess a reasoning mind. Man, on the other hand, because he has conscious reasoning, can control his response to the insistence of the impulsive drives. Of course, man also does feel angry, hungry, and sexually aroused, but he can modify his action. This is what the specialty of human mind. He could, for example, channel an erotic mood on to another creative trait. Love, hate, and fear are endocrine expressions. It is the primitive urge of aggression from the endocrine that will start war and not the brain. Because no reasoning mind will ever wish to kill or injure. All the patient's emotions and impelling forces are the actions of the endocrine expressions. The reasoning mind itself has no emotions, but many a time the powerful impulses from the endocrine can overwhelm and continue to tinge the supposed reasoning. So here we have just seen that how science is working on endocrine system, their hormones and their secretions, and it is also talking about the impact or effect of those hormones on human behavior and mental states along with the emotional turmoils or emotional states. So with this, we have completed the scientific explanation regarding the chakra meditation. And now you would see that science is not talking anything directly about the chakras, because that is the concept of a yoga tradition or meditation. It is the topic of the meditational field. But what science is talking is very much close to the chakras. They are talking about the glands, and the yogis are talking about the chakras. The place of chakras are very close to these endocrine glands, and we will see that if we meditate on these chakras, we can also control the hormones of different glands which are situated nearby the chakras. And that's why it is necessary for us to understand this scientific view about the endocrine glands and their hormones and their functions and their impact on human behavior and his mental and emotional states. Now we would see what is other reasons why we should practice this meditation, why it is so important for us to practice, and how it can help us to have overall health. It means the holistic health, the spiritual, the emotional, the mental, and the physical health. And for that, we should know some other reasons also. So I will talk about all those reasons why we are practicing this meditation, so that you can know the importance of this particular practice of meditation. So there are certain other reasons for that also we are practicing this meditation, and we will see that how science is working in all these grounds, on all these grounds, or on these reasons. So now we will talk about other reasons why we have to practice this meditation, and how science is saying something which is also very important for us to know the importance of this particular technique of meditation. Though every man does possess a reasoning mind, and it is not capable of just and fair reasoning until properly developed. Till then, man's response to the insistence of his impulses is based on his intelligence and a priori logic. His judgment is then devoid of conscious reasoning. In fact, the logic is often so tinged by the intense impulses that they overwhelm the supposed reasoning. At such times, reasoning seeks proofs to justify the action demanded by the instincts. Thus, it is essential to develop and evolve the reasoning mind in order to master the impelling forces of the primal urges. For that, it is required to develop a reasoning mind. So how we can develop this kind of reasoning mind? Systematic development of conscious reasoning and rational judgment alone can control and destroy the dominance of animal impulses, savage traditions, superstitions, and numerous traditional and conventional beliefs. Dangerous impulsive forces would then either be creatively utilized or eliminated. What is necessary then is the development of that unique attribute of mankind which is called reasoning mind and rational thinking, and ultimately establish control of conscious reasoning over all the activities, physical, mental, and emotional. So we need harmony of the endocrine system, and the endocrines are the tuning keys that tighten up or soften down the driving forces of the organism. They are therefore the psychic centers. They form a system and cannot perform or function separately. Each influences the rest in the chain. The system is interrelated by chemical process and interlocked with the brain and the nervous system. Our thoughts affect the endocrines as the latter also influence our brain and mind. Imbalance or disorders in the endocrine system will vitiate the thought and produce psychological distortions. For example, overactivity of the gonads will cause the mind to dwell on matters sexual, cause peevishness or irrational fear. Practice of the perception of psychic centers has the capacity to restore harmony and equilibrium in the endocrine system, to strengthen the power of reasoning mind and weaken the forces of primal urges. Incompleteness of the surgical remedy. Here we can understand that meditation is a process of integrated development of personality. It changes habits, refines attitude and behavior and transforms the entire personality of the practitioner. The result of meditational practice can be observed, defined, and interpreted scientifically. Modern science has proved that life's processes lie almost wholly within oneself and are amenable to transformation. It has been established by the use of the feedback equipments that meditation changes the electrical activity as well as transmutes the synthesization of hormones. RNA is a product of the internal cellular activities. It is believed that this chemical substance plays an important role in the personality of an individual. It follows that transformation of this factor can help in changing one's personality. Old habits can be changed to new ones. Our organization has 3 areas of successive stages of conscious activities. The first is the center where most subtle conscious radiations are generated as waves of urges and impulses. The second is the medium through which it is transformed into feelings, and the third is the area where it manifests itself as a physical and mental activity. All these take place in the organism through the internal organization. For instance, take anger. It starts as an impulsive reaction to some aggressive situation in the form of a wave radiation from the innermost recesses of consciousness. Stage number 1, it reaches and reacts with endocrine, brain and nerves. Stage number 2, and finally manifests itself in various parts of the body as stage number 3. So we have seen that how the aggression or anger is manifesting at physical level through different stages. Modern science would describe the same sequence in the manner. According to modern science, anger starts as an impulsive reaction to some aggressive situation in the form of a wave radiation from the consciousness. It reaches the brain and activates the pituitary through hypothalamus. Pituitary hormones, which is known as ACTH, reaches and reacts with the adrenal gland and stimulates it to release adrenaline in the bloodstream, which reaches the motor nerve area in the brain via the neurotransmitters. Finally, it manifests itself by producing certain physiological conditions, making the body ready for aggression. The science is aware of the center of generation of impulses and the paths of their transmission to the brain. If the transmission line is surgically destroyed, the instinct cannot generate feeling and is incapable of commanding action. By stimulating or inhibiting certain portions of the brain, particularly hypothalamus, anger, fear, sexual excitement, and other urges can be neutralized. The field that manifests them remains passive because the transmission is cut off. It must, however, be remembered that in such operation only the transmission of the impulsive agitation is cut off, but the generation is not stopped but continues. The manifestation in the final field does not occur, but the primary centers of agitation remains active. This means that by blocking the transmission, a temporary transformation of the behavior is achieved, but the origin of the agitation remains as active as before. In other words, a mask is used to hide the hideousness of the face, while the face continues to remain as hideous as before. The change is external and superfluous, not internal and intrinsic. For that, we need some serious practice of meditation like the chakra meditation. Thus, the surgical treatment of controlling the impulsive forces can be looked upon as an expedient and not a permanent solution of the problem. The permanent remedy is to achieve a state of blissful tranquility in which the impelling force of the urge fails to generate the waves. Frequent repetitions strengthen the agitational force of impulsive drives such as anger, fear, etc. Anger, for example, grows if it is fed with anger. If no nourishment is fed to anger, it will wither and die down. Psychic science means spirituality is based on the doctrine of equanimity, and its technique is self-awareness. Self-awareness is the foundation of tranquil consciousness. When one reaches this state, there is neither like nor dislike, neither attachment nor aversion. In this state of consciousness, the wave of anger is not suppressed, but the force which generates the wave of anger is eradicated. Whereas the surgical implements or medicinal remedies strike at the brain, spinal cord, or nerves, that is, the instruments of transmission, the self-awareness and tranquility released by meditation strikes not only on the transmission system, but the prime mover that drives the generator of impulses. It is a process of extermination from the roots, and that is why the solution is permanent and everlasting. The technique of releasing the tranquil state is the perception of psychic centers. So here we can understand the importance of this particular meditation. Thus, the perception of psychic centers is not merely an important means of self-realization, but it is the only means. Now we see that how this particular meditation is having some impact on our subconscious mind. So we would learn about the contact with subconscious mind through this particular meditation. So it is said that endocrine glands in our body are components of the subconscious self. Because they affect the brain, they are more powerful and important than the brain. If they are properly harmonized by systematic, efficient meditation, one becomes free from fear, and freedom from fear means freedom from all hurdles. Endocrinology, science of endocrines, does not specify the proper method of harmonizing the system. Only the psychic science, or you can say the spiritual science, can show the way in this regard. And the method shown by it is regular practice of meditation. Meditation means concentrated perception of psychic centers that are the fields of neuronal, endocrine action, removes distortion and discoordinates from the system. The more profound the concentration, the more harmonized will the system become, and this will result in freedom from fear, cruelty, and other psychological distortions. A new personality will be evolved with a regenerated, revitalized, and rejuvenated conscious mind. The psychic center of intuition is the center of intuitive insight. It is also the center of internal vision and right vision. When one concentrates on this psychic center and perceives it, one is able to reach and communicate with the deeper levels of consciousness. The capacity of our conscious mind is limited in the field of personality development, while it is adequately capable, if developed by proper education, of coping up with arguments, hypotheses, critical evaluation, and creative imagination in the fields of science, art, and literature, etc. It is not always capable of controlling behavioral patterns of the individual. Indeed, by far the greater part of one's behavior is not controlled by conscious decisions. It follows, therefore, that this faculty cannot bring about changes in the attitude and behavior of a person, let alone realizing a tranquil state. However, one practices perception of the psychic center of intuition, one's will and determination can transcend the conscious mind and reach the deeper levels of subconscious mind. It can even penetrate further and reach the fields of psychic colors and primal drives, the most subtle inner conscious levels. Then the blissful tranquil state is realized and attitude and behavior drastically changed. So in this way we have seen that why this perception of psychic center is so important for us to learn and to practice at regular basis.